A man stands on a rooftop, watching the water climb the walls of his city. He has been warned. He has built something, and he is not the only one who remembers this night. You already know a version of this. Everyone does. It lives inside a book you think you understand. But that book was not the first to tell it. In ancient Iraq, they carved it into wet clay 1,000 years before Genesis. A boat. A survivor. A single bird sent out over endless water. In Greece, 2 people throw stones over their shoulders, and where the stones fall, human beings stand up out of the ground. In India, a fish the size of a mountain tows a small boat through the drowning of the entire world. In China, no one runs and no one floats. A father and a son spend their whole lives trying to command the water itself. In Mexico, in the forests of North America, on islands you have never named, the same terrible night keeps happening again and again. It is the flood. Not one flood, dozens of them, the single most widely told story on the face of the earth. Nearly every ancient culture, divided by oceans and centuries, describes the same catastrophe. The sky opens. The world drowns. A remnant survives. How? How does one story reach peoples who never met, never traded, never spoke a single word of the same language? Tonight we lay them side by side, every great flood the ancient world remembered, and find the pattern hidden underneath them all. Where they agree will unsettle you. Where they differ will surprise you. And one of them is far, far older than you think. We begin where the writing begins, not in a garden. In the mud brick cities of Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago, here, between the Tigris and the Euphrates, human beings first pressed words into clay, and almost the moment they could write, they wrote about the flood. The oldest surviving version names its hero, Ziusudra, a Sumerian king of the city of Shuruppak. His name means, roughly, life of long days. The gods, angered by the swarm and the noise of mankind, secretly resolved to wipe the earth clean with water. It is decided, humanity will end. But one god dissents. Enki, lord of the sweet underground waters, cannot allow it. He slips down to Ziusudra, and he warns him. A later Babylonian telling calls the hero Atrahasis, exceedingly wise. Same warning, same secret, same command, build a boat and abandon everything you own. And then comes the most famous version of all, carved into the Epic of Gilgamesh on its 11th tablet. Here the survivor is named Utnapishtim. Utnapishtim tears down his own house to build a vast sealed vessel. He loads aboard his family, his craftsmen, and the seed of every living creature. For 6 days and 7 nights the storm rages. Even the gods are terrified. They cower like dogs against the wall of heaven, weeping at what they have unleashed. When it finally stills, the boat grounds upon a mountain called Nemush, and Utnapishtim opens a hatch onto the silent, endless water. He releases a dove. It finds nowhere to land and returns to him. He releases a swallow. It, too, comes back. Then he releases a raven. The raven finds the receding water, finds food, and does not come back. The land is returning. Utnapishtim steps out and offers sacrifice. The gods, starving for it, gather around the rising smoke, and their rage cools into something like regret. Now hold this in your mind. This story was written down centuries in its Sumerian roots, perhaps 1,000 years before the book of Genesis took its final form. Because the next flood, you know very well, a man named Noah, a world grown violent and corrupt, a god who resolves to begin the world again. Noah is told to build an ark of gopher wood, sealed inside and out with pitch, and to bring 2 of every living kind aboard. The rain falls for 40 days and 40 nights. The deep breaks open. The waters rise until even the mountains vanish beneath them. For months the ark drifts. Then it comes to rest upon the mountains of Ararat, and the great flood begins slowly to withdraw. Noah sends out a raven. Then he sends a dove. The dove returns with nothing in her beak. The world is still drowned. He waits and sends the dove again. This time she returns carrying a fresh olive leaf. Somewhere out there, a tree is standing. A third time he sends her, and she does not return. The earth is dry. Noah, his family, and every creature step into a washed and silent world. And God sets a rainbow in the clouds, a covenant that the waters will never again swallow all flesh. Notice the shape of it: warning, vessel, birds, a new beginning. Now sail west to Greece. Here the storyteller is different, the gods are different, but the water is exactly the same. Zeus looks down on the bronze race of humankind, brutal, arrogant, soaked in blood, and decides they are not worth keeping. He will drown them all. But the Titan Prometheus, who has always loved humanity, warns his own son. That son is named Deucalion. His wife is called Pyrrha. On Prometheus's counsel, Deucalion builds a wooden chest, an ark, and stocks it. When the rains come, the 2 of them climb inside. 9 days and nights the flood covers the world. When it recedes, their chest grounds on Mount Parnassus. They are the only 2 people left alive. They weep in the silence of an emptied world. Then a voice tells them, "Cast the bones of your mother behind you as you walk." A horror at first, until Deucalion understands. Their mother is the earth herself. Her bones are the stones lying scattered all around them. So they walk, throwing stones over their shoulders, never looking back. Where Deucalion's stones fall, men rise up. Where Pyrrha's fall, women. A drowned world repopulated not from an ark full of families, but from bare rock. The same flood, a completely different rebirth. Travel east now to India, and to one of the strangest and gentlest openings any flood story has ever had. A righteous man named Manu is washing his hands when a tiny fish swims into his palms and begs him, "Protect me, and one day I will save you." He keeps it in a jar. It outgrows the jar. He moves it to a pond, then a river, then the open sea, for the fish never stops growing. At last it reveals itself. It is Matsya, an avatar of the great god Vishnu, and it has come to him with a warning. A world-ending flood is coming. Manu must build a boat and gather aboard the seeds of every plant and the pairs of every creature. When the waters rise and swallow everything, the fish returns, now colossal, and crowned with a single enormous horn. Manu ties his boat to that horn with a cosmic serpent for a rope, and the great fish begins to swim, towing the last of the world behind it. Through the churning, drowned darkness, the fish pulls him on and on until it reaches the peak of a mountain rising from the flood. There it tells him to moor the boat and wait for the waters to fall. From Manu, the human race begins again, towed to safety, not left to drift. Now China. And here the story turns completely, because in China nobody builds a boat, nobody floats, nobody runs. The flood does not come and go in 40 days. It lasts for generations. Rivers overflow and refuse to return, swallowing farmland and city alike. A man named Gun is charged with stopping it. His method is force, block the water. He raises dams and dikes and walls of earth against the rising rivers. He even steals a magical, self-growing soil from the heavens to build his barriers higher. For 9 years he fights the water, and for 9 years he fails. The dams burst. The floods come back worse than before. Gun is executed for his failure, but the task passes to his son. His son is you. And you learns the lesson his father never could. You cannot wall out a flood. You must give it somewhere to go. So you does not build walls. He dredges. He carves channels, opens the mountains, digs the great rivers deeper, and guides the water down to the sea. For 13 years he labors, so devoted he passes his own home 3 times without stopping to enter, and the water obeys. The flood is not survived. It is tamed. You becomes emperor. Cross the ocean the ancients could not cross, to Mexico, to the Aztecs, and the flood is waiting there too. The Aztecs believed the world had been made and destroyed many times in a succession of ages they called suns. One of those ages ended in water. Humanity had grown wicked and forgotten the gods. So a flood was sent to end that age, a rain that would drown the entire fourth world. But one couple is warned in time, a man named Tata and a woman named Nena, whose hearts had somehow stayed pure. They are told, hollow out a great log, climb inside, take a single ear of corn each, and eat nothing more than that. They ride out the flood sealed inside the log. When the waters fall and it grounds on dry earth, they crawl out, starving, and they disobey. They catch a fish and build a fire to cook it. The smoke rises, and the gods see it. For breaking the one command, they are punished, transformed into animals. Even the saved could not obey. And so that age ended too, and gave way to ours, the age of the fifth sun. North now into the forests and lakes of the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe peoples, where the flood story takes a shape unlike any we have seen. A great flood covers the whole earth, drowning the people and nearly every animal. Only the spirit being Nanabojo survives, with a handful of swimming and flying creatures. There is no ark here. Nanabojo floats on a single enormous log across a shoreless sea. There is no land left anywhere to reach. So he does not search for land. He decides to rebuild it. He needs only a handful of the old earth from the bottom of the water. One by one the animals dive. The loon, the otter, the beaver. Each plunges into the depths, and each surface is empty and gasping. It is too deep. Last, the smallest, the muskrat, dives. It is gone so long they believe it drowned, and it does drown, but it floats up with wet mud clenched in one tiny paw. A turtle offers its back. Nanabojo lays the mud upon the shell and breathes upon it, and the 4 winds begin to blow. The mud grows and grows. Into an island, into a continent, into the whole world, carried to this day on the back of a turtle. This flood does not end a world, it builds one. 2 more, very briefly, because they show just how far this pattern reaches across the earth. In Norse myth, the flood is made of blood. When the gods slay the first giant Ymir, so much blood pours out of him that it drowns nearly the entire race of frost giants. Only one escapes, Bergelmir, who climbs with his wife onto a hollowed vessel and rides out the red deluge. From them, the giants begin again. And back in Greece before Deucalion, there was an older flood still. The deluge of Ogyges, a primeval king said to have drowned the whole world. Afterward, the land of Attica was left so empty that legend says it stood without a single king for 200 years. Different gods, different heroes, blood or rain or river, and always the same bones underneath. So let us finally lay those bones bare. Strip away the names, the gods, the languages. Look at what remains over and over in nearly every one of these stories. First, a divine decision to destroy a corrupt or overcrowded humanity. The flood is almost never an accident. It is a judgment. Second, a warning. One righteous person is told what is coming by a dissenting god, a fish, a father, a titan. Third, a vessel, a boat, a chest, a hollow log, something built to carry life across the water. Fourth, the saving of seed, pairs of animals, ears of corn, the seeds of all plants. What survives is not just people, it is the future. Fifth, again and again, birds sent out across the water to find the returning land. A dove, a raven, a swallow released into silence. And sixth, a new beginning, a covenant, a repopulation, a rebuilt world. The story never ends in the water, it ends in the dawn after it. So the ancients hand us a single question, and it has no easy answer. Why? Why does one story appear on nearly every continent on Earth? Here is what most scholars will tell you, carefully. The Mesopotamian versions are the oldest we can date, older than Genesis by centuries. And the parallels with the Hebrew account are so close. The boat, the mountain, the released birds, the sacrifice, that most historians believe the older story shaped the later one, as cultures met and traded and remembered. But that cannot explain the Ojibwe, or the Aztecs, or peoples an ocean away who never heard a single word of Babylon. Those floods, scholars agree, arose on their own. So the real answer may be plural. Some flood stories were inherited, some were invented independently, because every river civilization drowns eventually and remembers it. And some may reach back to something real, the end of the last ice age, when the seas rose and whole coastlines vanished and human beings everywhere watched their world go under. Borrowed or invented or half-remembered from the deep past, the flood remains the one nightmare our whole species seems to share. A warning we keep telling, a boat we keep building,